Meet Dustin, a former millionaire who owns one of the most successful sneaker store chains on the East Coast, generating $17 million in annual revenue despite the tough economy. But instead of enjoying his wealth, he reinvested it all along with nearly $3 million in loans, expanding his sneaker business.
We've taken on, in order to grow Soleply, just about $2.7 million of debt.
I feel like I would have a tough time sleeping at night. I don't know if I have to.
Why? It's just math.
Is it?
In this video, we'll uncover the secrets behind his success and why he remains so committed to sneakers while many others are moving away.
Dustin, pleasure. Introduce yourself to the people in your business.
So hi, I'm Dustin Billow. I am the part owner, founder of Soleply. We're here at our Christiana Mall location, but we actually have 6 locations spanning from Providence, Rhode Island, all the way down to Maryland. And we have 2 more locations coming in the New York market in 2025.
6 locations right now.
6 locations.
So how much revenue do you guys generate?
So currently we are above 14 million in revenue.
14 million per year.
14 million per
And what are the margins on that 14 million per year?
Our average margin on a pair of shoes currently sits at about 37.5%.
37.5%. Okay, so it's $200. You're making how much?
$80, $75.
$75.
You're right, it is $75 exactly.
$75. Okay. And so where are you buying these shoes from?
So we buy from a lot of different places. We go to sneaker shows, a lot of the larger bulk sellers, smaller bulk sellers throughout the country.
Got it. And so for something like this, you're paying $125.
$125.
You're selling for $200.
Yeah.
Do you find that customers are willing to pay that price, or are they coming in upset?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we provide a certain level of value above what the apps provide, and therefore we charge a price that reflects that. I think a lot of resellers think about it like resellers, and they kind of downplay the fact that the item is available in hand today. I don't know if you shopped on StockX or Goat or whatever. I buy my basketball shoes, for example, off eBay. It takes probably 2 to 3 weeks. There are times I buy shoes from them, completely forget about it until the shoe shows up, and I'm like, oh, I forgot I ordered it.
New shoe.
I mean, I was just talking to my district manager out there this morning about, he ordered a spider hoodie for his daughter last Christmas, 3 weeks in advance to make sure he got it in time. 2 days before Christmas, hey, your item failed verification, now it doesn't exist anymore. Your order's gone. It's like, okay, well, we exist and we have the item. It is above StockX, 100% it's above StockX. It should be above StockX. Our goal is to sell the shoe for as much as possible and just make the value that we provide in reference to the price as far away from the price.
Is it value, or are you just taking advantage of customers who don't know any better?
I would absolutely say it's value. I mean, you tell me if I'm wrong, but if you have something wrong with your order, you want to talk to a live person, right?
Yeah.
That's value.
Yeah.
If you want, to be able to have returns, you have to charge more for your product.
Would you say the average customer is paying your prices because they see the value, or they're paying the prices because they don't know they can get it for cheaper?
Isn't that also value? I'm informing them about the product. They had no idea. They might not have even had an idea that product existed. The other thing too is, there's a reason I can reach those customers and StockX can't. It's because those customers are more valuable to me. StockX, literally, if you look at their margins, they can't afford to have the level of physical locations that, all these resale stores have across the country because they're not making the margin. It's less than 15%.
You think?
You can't afford to have a staff and have a brick and mortar store at 15%. So you can't capture that customer. I can. Because to me, the customer I make more on the customer.
So of that 37.5%, that's gross profit,
Yep.
right? What's the net profit margin?
So the net profit on a Soleply location sits anywhere, on average, changes between the locations, but it's anywhere from 12.5% to 15% at a store level. And then after corporate expenses, you sit at about 8 to 10%.
8 to 10%. So I'm not great at math, but 8 to 10% of 14 million.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 1.4. So currently, we don't really realize that profit, quote unquote, because pretty much everything that we make here at Soleply gets reinvested in the business. For us, really, we reinvest absolutely as heavily as possible. So all of that money really goes right back into the business.
Okay, so I'm curious, what's the overhead for running something like this? Because I mean, it's a nice location,
yeah,
right? And it's a good mall, a lot of foot traffic. How much are you spending every month on overhead?
So overhead, it varies by month. Obviously, your rent doesn't change, but obviously payroll can fluctuate depending on the month, how many hours usage, stuff like that.
So let's say this mall, this location, August.
So last month, this location cost us about $45,000.
And how much did it make?
August is a profitable month. I'd have to look, probably 30 grand.
30 grand profit.
About.
Very nice. So the 45K, it's for rent, employees?
Rent, employees, obviously disposables like, fixtures, repair.
How much is rent?
Rent's expensive.
for this location specifically?
Rent is 5 figures. We'll just say that.
5 figures.
5 figures.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you are in a premium center, being here at Christiana. It's tax-free state. I think the Apple store here is like the top Apple store on the East Coast. They do, I think, over $100 million in revenue out of this Apple.
You mentioned corporate expenses. Walk me through kind of the corporate structure, how you guys are set up.
Yeah, we have district managers who run the stores. We have one district manager in training who is in the role just kind of, to make sure that he's ready as we start to scale a little bit more rapidly. We also have, myself and my partner are also on payroll factored into that. And then a lot of the corporate expense, to be honest, is like our warehouse and our warehouse staff. So obviously, we have to fulfill 6 locations. We have centralized warehousing just because we feel that it's a lot easier to, manage the different logistics as far as receiving pairs, checking them, make sure they're legit before they send out to locations.
Okay, so the org chart is you and your partner.
Yeah, I'm the CEO, my partner is the COO, and then below us we have our district manager, James Erb, who has 10 plus years experience at Foot Locker, and then we also have Mike Kuzman, who's our district manager in training, who has 15 years of experience actually from Foot Locker and another 5 years of experience from Microsoft. We have general managers, below them is just regular manager, then we have part-time key holders and sales.
Okay, so how many people are employed by Soleply?
So in total, we have just over 100 people employed. The majority of them are part-time, obviously being sales associates.
And Dustin, how long have you had these stores for?
So we've owned and operated Soleply since January 9th, 2021. That's when we opened our first location.
Wow, so you've built all of this just since 2021, just a few years.
Yeah, we've grown extremely quickly. I've been reselling since I was 12 years old, so 2012. I would go to the Tacony Palmyra flea market with my dad, and I would buy fake Jordan 6-ring Concords for $30.
Fake 6 rings.
And I thought those were like the coolest shoes.
Fake 6 rings. Why would you just get fake Concord?
Back then I didn't even know what this stuff was.
6 ring is the fake Concord.
Like that's where I really also learned to like haggle with people. I would do garage sales a lot when I was a kid. Started buying fake Concords. Eventually kids in my school were like, those are fake. And I'm like, damn, I had no idea even what that meant.
Yeah. So what was that like? Like everyone telling you your shit's fake?
I was also just like bullied a lot in school. So like that was like the last thing I worried about.
Why
did
you get bullied?
I showed you pictures. I was a very overweight child. So in 7th grade, I weighed 250 pounds, which no 7th graders should weigh 250 unless they're maybe like 6'5". The shoes was kind of like the last of my problems. I was 13 years old. Me and my dad made flyers. We put them up on literally like the little pin board where you can like, at your grocery store or at your local, whatever. I had someone reach out to me who actually basically what they did is like, it's not 3PL for dogs, but it's kind of 3PL for dogs. He would get a bunch of people who had their dogs and he would basically like distribute them to people's houses where they would watch them. He would then pick them up and take them back to the owners.
Middleman. He middleman the dog.
Essentially. So like there were points where like for a week we would have like 5 dogs in the house. All different dogs, and I had to like make sure this one got this food, this one got this food, this one got its medication. And so, but it was pretty lucrative. Like back in 2012, obviously there wasn't as much inflation. I was making $16 a day per dog. So if you have 5 dogs at a time, you can make a little bit of money. And I was 13 years old. So like I was making probably like at least $10,000 to $15,000 a year watching dogs.
How much do you make now?
Now I make no money, but.
So you're making more at 13 than
I was making more at 13,
25?
25. Over the bend is in the sneaker game, I think. And then I just took every penny that I have and I would go to sneaker shows and buy as many shoes as possible.
At what point did it turn into a real business?
So in high school, I was going to all these shows and I was like, you know what, like there's an opportunity here. Like it's so hard to get pairs on release. Like I'm not hitting on release. Like there's gotta be a different way to do this business where like I can make more margin and not take it a little bit more in my hands to kind of source pairs. So I switched to being the kid at shows who pretty much would buy anything. Primarily when I was really sourcing shoes, when I first got my license, I go on Facebook Marketplace, I'd message every single person in, within a 50-mile, 25-mile radius who was selling shoes, message them like, hey, I'll buy them for, the same way Facebook lowballers work now, where like, oh, you got a brand new Escalade for 100 grand, I'll give you $10. Like, I'd be like, oh, you have this shoe worn, you got this collection, whatever, I'll give you this much. Hey, do you have any more shoes? And then just like, milking your connection, milking your network, get as many people. I remember I would drive over the Tacony Palmyra Bridge like every day immediately after school. I'd have all my meetups set up that were from Philly at the McDonald's on Torresdale Ave. And I would sit there as a 16, 17-year-old kid.
Just pull up.
And they would pull up, drop the shoes. I would go in, get a water cup, just wait for more people, get more shoes, take them home, clean them if they were worn, and then I'd list them on GOAT, and then I would take them to re-up sneakers. Literally, like I would just put them on consignment, If it's sold on GOAT, I go pick it up, and like every day I was there. So I'd buy all my shoes during the day, prep them, drop off, pick up, ship out.
And how much were you making at the time?
I had very good consignment rates at that store. Part of my origination story is my sophomore summer year, I worked there for free. Like I was their first intern ever when they were on Passyunk Ave in Philly. I literally paid to work there. So I would go down there, I'd take the train, and I would work for free at the sneaker store, just kind of like working the store, watching them buy shoes, watching them sell shoes. When I graduated high school, I was doing about $750,000 sales.
At what margin?
So $750,000. Oh, my margins are very good back then. I mean, I was buying shoes for $5 and selling for $25 on GOAT. I still remember GOAT payout. If you buy a shoe for $5, sell it for $25 on GOAT, you're gonna get $17.62 as your payout.
Someone fact check this, man.
And again, I had one employee.
Hey, Dustin, did you pay your taxes back then?
I did pay my taxes back then. I remember Sally, my old accountant, used to be my dad's accountant as well. She was on me to pay my taxes and would always scream at me to limit my cash withdrawal transactions because, you know, before you go to a show, you take everything. So my dad's entire house filled with shoes, which obviously, you know, he only started charging me rent like my senior year of high school. And then I had 6 storage units just filled to the brim with shoes.
6 storage units?
Yeah. 6
storage units, senior year of high school. What was your overhead? How much were you paying for that?
Oh, they were cheap. I was probably paying like $200, $250 a unit, 20 by 10s. They were all a little different, but they were like 20 by 10s.
Okay, so like $1,500 a month.
Nothing major. And then, like I said, I didn't start paying my dad rent. I paid him like $500 a month, starting like my senior year of high school.
We talked to a lot of store owners. A lot of store owners are losing money right now. How are you guys still able to A, operate at a 37.5 gross margin, and B, still be profitable during this down period?
I think the biggest thing is like we focus on the margin, right? I think a lot of other stores don't really track their metrics as closely as they should. You know, I'm not saying that you need to run the business from the P&L. I definitely don't think that's the answer, like entirely. But I do think you got to pay attention to your numbers. You got to look at where your bottlenecks are and kind of, you know, figure out how you can alleviate those pain points. I also think, you know, presentation. You know, we really do the best job possible, making sure that, you know, our staff is professional, polite, every customer is greeted, we follow up with them, we have a rewards program that incentivizes them to come back, we're adding in a referral program. There's a million different ways to win. I think you just gotta find them and, you know, and really, you know, make sure you do them thoroughly. When I was in class, sitting in class, like I was on my phone 100% of the time making deals on Facebook and trying to just buy as many shoes as possible.
Are you a good student?
I was a good student up until my sophomore year. That's when I was like, I started making more than some of my teachers, and I was like, I'm just gonna be honest, like, this is not gonna work for me. I knew from a young age, I come from an entrepreneurial background. My family used to own Billow's Electric, which is one of the largest electrical supply chains in the tri-state. My uncle just sold it, but they were doing 170 million in revenue. I was always kind of like raised to be an entrepreneur. I was just taught that. Like my dad had a saying, like, never wear a uniform unless it's a sports uniform. Meaning like, don't go in the military and don't work for somebody else.
Why?
It's just his mentality. I think it partially has to do with like, you know, we're culturally Jewish. So like maybe partially that.
So did you? It's college?
No, I didn't go to college.
You didn't go at all?
I didn't even apply.
You didn't even drop?
I didn't take the SAT. I didn't even apply. My senior year of high school, I had a half day. I went to college for 1 semester so that I get the half day my senior year. And then I just never showed up.
Do you ever regret not going to school? Personally, like I sometimes wish that I could.
I regret the sports side of it. I just, you know, decided that like, hey, I think reselling is going to be a better path. Like, you know, as much as my family, I talked about like my dad's side of the family had money, my dad sold out of Billow's right before I was born. And through some very questionable investments, kind of lost it all. And my mom was, you know, not exactly a single mother. Like my parents were never together. But I just kind of realized from an early age, like, one, I'm not gonna have the money for college. Like if I go to college, I'm gonna incur a ton of debt. And then the other side of it too was like, I always felt that not only do I need to provide for myself, but like I grew up watching my mom work 2 jobs and like seeing the sacrifices that she made. And like, I still think about it all the time now. Like she was able to move us out of a townhouse and, you know, buy a house when I was 8, which like she bought a house in 2008, which is obviously not a good time to buy a house. But I just remember like, especially thinking back on it now, like I would go to school, I wouldn't see her till 8 o'clock because she would sell insurance during the day and then sing gigs at night. And like, I just wouldn't see her all day. And I just realized like, you know what, like I have to not only provide myself to take that burden off of her, but also just like provide for her as much as I possibly can.
So Dustin, 1.4 million in net profit last year. I can't imagine that it's as easy as it sounds. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. Talk to me about some of the struggles of operating a business this large.
I didn't come from retail originally. You know, I started like a lot of your viewers, just kind of a sneaker reseller who was like, hey, like let's open a store. And to be honest, I think the biggest thing in business just in general is like understanding not necessarily what you don't know, but what you don't know, right? There are so many things that like you don't even have a concept of that are extremely important that you need to learn and then continue to scale.
Are there any stories that stick out to you where you got burned by something or you really had to pay the price to learn a lesson?
Our original store in Morristown got broken into like literally a couple months before we closed it. I mean, that was, you know, we took an $80,000 loss there. So literally, this is kind of a, you know, not to slander Morristown Mall security, but the thieves, they kind of cased the place from the front, looked in through our glass window, you know, saw all the shoes, saw all the clothing, and they realized there was an opportunity there. So they went through the mall doors, found our back door. Just in case anyone's not aware, all the back doors in malls have to be labeled, so it says our store name. All the doors are alarmed, right? They literally ripped the entire hinge.
Should be giving some people some ideas.
Off of the door. So the alarm is totally disabled at that point because it only alarms if you know, whatever. Completely ripped it off. Not only made one trip where they used our own bags to take the product out, take it into the car, take it home, came back later that night to grab more product. And when we walked in the next day, we were like, there used to be clothes on these racks. And there used to be shoes over here, and where'd the stuff go? So, you know, we realized obviously, you know, we had been had. So made a call to...
They came in twice in the same night.
They came in twice in the same night, and security didn't even realize until I went down to the security office and I was like, so our stuff's gone. And they were like, well, that's weird. Nothing happened last night. And I was like, well, my camera says a little different.
So how do you bounce back from that $80,000 loss?
You call your insurance company, and that's why you pay for insurance, kids. You know, that's why it's there. Cover your bases.
Shout out Mary.
Shout out Mary.
Shout out Mary.
If you're not familiar with Mary Urban, Beaton Insurance Agency, if you're in the tri-state area, give her a call. Starting my junior year, I bought my own groceries and stuff. And like obviously my first car, I bought my own car. It was a big, it was a Jeep Cherokee, 99 Jeep Cherokee. Cause I was like, all right, like a 6-straight engine will be reliable. The car will be cheap. It'll be an SUV so I can fit shoes in it. But it had I'm an Eagles fan, but it had the ugliest big Eagles decal on the front hood. It looked crazy. No. Anyone who has an older Jeep Cherokee, the electrical system would fail. So like the window would be down and it was just down. Like it's not going back up. I'd have to put a plastic bag over the window and it was just like, it was a very interesting time.
Something that sticks out to me versus some of the other stores we've been to is your selection. You have one of, not to gas you up, you have one of the best selections that I've seen. It's all like high quality shoes. Could still be better, of course, but it's a pretty solid selection. How do you go about picking what shoes you're going to carry and when to get rid of the old ones?
I mean, to keep it, you know, really simple, we just look at what sells, we look at what's trending. We try to keep stock that is, you know, extremely relevant. Obviously, you know, the Keanus are super popular right now. The 90s, 60s are super popular. I mean, you have some of the classics like Bread Reimagines. One thing that we do that a lot of stores, you know, maybe don't do is we have a ton of Bapestas. Bapestas have sold extremely well for us throughout our catalog of stores. We also try to, you know, look at what's selling at specific locations. So for example, you know, Sambas are kind of a hot shoe, but for some reason they sell really well here and really well at our Providence location. And then they're kind of hit or miss at some of our other locations. But to be honest, we really just try to keep relevant product and just make sure that, you know, what we have is selling. We monitor sell-through rate pretty closely and just make sure that, again, the product that we have on the wall is what the customer is actually looking for. Because again, I'm sure you've heard this before, we're not here to be a museum, I'm here to be a sneaker store and sell shoes. Our biggest goal right now, one of the things that we're working on is really clearing out anything that we don't consider to be like that shit. We want to have the shoes that are the hottest out. We want to make sure that they're literally like, if it's something that, you know, Kai Cenat is wearing, if it's something that your favorite influencer is wearing, whatever it is, if it's the hottest drop, we have it in stock.
So what happens if your shoe goes out of style? Something like this.
A couple years ago, we would be selling those for about, you know, maybe $200. Obviously, the price point is a little bit lower now, so we're a little bit more in line with retail. To be honest, I think Jordan 1 mids get a lot of hate, but we still move them actually pretty well. Jordan 1 mids are probably, I would say, you know, as far as silhouettes go, they're probably in top 5, top 10 for sure. There's definitely worse SKUs. We have product aging cycles. So when something's been sitting for a certain amount of time, it'll go on sale, we'll sell on apps, whatever it is, just to get it off the wall and get fresh product out. We've seen that when you put new product out, For whatever reason, just having something new on the shelf, the customer walks in, even if they haven't been here, they just kind of, yes, know that the product is new. I think it also is a little bit of a morale thing where the employees know, like, hey, we just got these in, you should check them out.
Yeah, so how do you determine your prices? Because I see some of the stuff is not bad. I mean, Panda's 125, that's pretty fair. But there's some pairs I think that are a little bit more. Let's take this Rose Whisper, for example, right? I'm sure you're buying these for 75 now, right? Market's like 75, maybe a little bit lower.
75, 80.
You're selling it for 150.
Depends. I'm gonna be honest, we will try them out a little higher, try them out a little lower, and then we find the right volume to margin ratio, we'll keep it at that price. So to be honest, we've had these, obviously, we used to have them even higher than that, obviously, as you're aware. So we've lowered it to a point that we think, again, based on the amount of foot traffic we get, the amount of pairs that we get, the sell through that is comfortable relative to our margin.
Got it. Okay. And so is your prices, how is it compared to StockX Ask, for example?
So it really all depends on the shoe, but I would say on our core offering, you know, the stuff that we want to carry, like Bread Reimagines, like White Lightnings, we tend to be about anywhere from 15 to 25% more depending on the shoe.
More than just Ask, or Ask plus shipping?
So more than just Ask. Again, it all varies based on the volume of the shoe on the apps, the bid-ask ratio. We have actually an algorithm on our back end that kind of handles a lot of that pricing data, and we tweak it regularly if we see, you know, different trends in the market.
But knowing what you know about how other stores run, what do you think is the biggest thing that separates you from them?
We're a little bit more formal. Like I said, we hire for experience. When I, you know, bring on someone to be a store manager or a sales associate, or, you know, anybody at the corporate level, whatever it is, I try to bring on someone who has experience already and honestly knows more about it than I do. A lot of store owners kind of work their store day to day. I think it's really important, as, you know, if you're going to be a business owner, it's important, you know, business owner, not a treadmill operator. It's important to, you know, get outside of the day to day and work on the business as opposed to just working in the business. So for me, it's really about looking at those high level things, looking at, you know, what kind of metrics, you know, I think we should be hitting, we could be hitting. And then again, I keep saying it, but relieving those bottlenecks in order for us to hit those metrics.
Have you noticed a downturn with the market as a whole being down?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can definitely see it with our pricing. Yeah. But again, I think the biggest thing here is that, you know, as the prices of shoes overall has dropped, there's also less people competing for the same shoes. Given that, you know, we pointed out this Rose Whisper before, you know, this is a shoe that we used to pay probably what we're selling, 140, 154 and sell it for 225 to 250. Whereas now, you know, obviously we're buying it for 80, selling it for 150. As much as you're making less technically overall, you're making higher margin. So as, you know, we may do a little bit less in sales, our overall margin has increased, and that's kind of made the difference. Got it.
So something like a Panda Dunk, right? Yeah. At its peak, what were you selling these for? Because right now, 125, that's not bad.
At the peak, we peaked out at about $400 for a pair of Pandas. And we could not keep them in stock. $400 for a pair of Pandas back in the day. And it was I couldn't even, we weren't even making
$445, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. Some stores were, I think the highest I ever saw was probably like $600.
It's insane.
And I just, you know, that's when you're coming at a time when we're honestly like, we are experimenting with raising our pricing even higher to honestly accommodate for the lower volume. And we've seen it work, because we're seeing our overall sales, again, are lower, just because I think everyone's are lower. Yeah. But it's holding up relative to the margin. So,
so you're mentioning the sales volume as a whole is going down.
Yep.
What percent do you think it's dropped since last year over year?
I would say they're down probably about, depending on the location, anywhere from like 10 to 20%. All depends. Obviously, you know, your good malls have a little bit less of a drop because their overall foot traffic is still extremely high. But some of your slower malls just kind of, you know, have seen more of a drop off.
Does that scare you?
They're still profitable.
Dustin, do you think you guys grew too fast?
I don't like to say too fast, because I do believe that, like, there's a reason for everything, right? Like, things that we're working on would not have come to fruition had we not grown so fast. Even like thinking to pitch to investors, even thinking about like trying to go, you know, the more non-traditional route for financing is probably not something we would have thought about had we not grown so fast.
Are you able to talk about the non-traditional way of financing?
So yeah, I mean, we pay a lot for money. I can kind of break down some of the numbers. I'll use round numbers. We've taken on, in order to grow Soleply, just about in total like $2.7 million of debt. right? So, because 6 stores, that's just what it costs to open up 6 stores, and make sure they're running efficiently and have the inventory they need to operate. For that money, we've had to go to what some people would call, just non-traditional lenders. I won't, because they are partners of ours, and like we still work with them. And
I could say it though. Loan sharks.
I won't say loan sharks. I don't think they're loan sharks. I do believe, again, like lending is not a sin and not a bad thing, and I think that even to get to this point, if those are the only people giving you money, they're providing a service and they're providing value. Sure, yeah. Right? Like that's just how it works. Like, and the deal works for us, right? Like, again, just use round numbers. Even if I pay 40% APR on a loan on $100,000, okay, yeah, I pay $40,000 on that money. But if I know I'm gonna make 65 on it, I'm gonna net out to a $25,000 profit. I'm fine with that. And again, if I can't get money anywhere else, they're the only place to go to.
But is that accounting for risk as well, like expected value? Like taking on 100,000, what if like a store?
There is always exponential risk when you start playing with, if anyone has dealt with, I don't trade futures and anything, but I know when you enable futures on TD Ameritrade or Robinhood, whatever, they tell you, there is exponential risk when you start playing with leverage. Mm-hmm. But I'm a big fan of leverage. It's treated us pretty well up to this so far, and we are actively looking for more. So if someone came to me and said, look, I can give you $15 million of debt at X rate, and the deal made sense, and I know I can line up the properties, and I know I can get the pairs, let's do it. What are we waiting for? But yeah, at this point, we're like looking for more money. We're looking to sell equity. Like, we're very open to all those.
I have a question about credit in general with your suppliers, your vendors. I'm assuming Soleply buys a lot. Just like every other store, buys a lot on credit. And you pay in like 30 days, etc.
Yeah, we get terms on certain deals.
Yeah. Do you ever worry that, and not just for Soleply, for all stores in general, I feel like there's a lot of stores who are buying on credit, right? And they have these deals locked in that they need to pay out. And then the market goes down. People aren't buying shoes as much. All of a sudden they have all this money they got to pay out, and they don't actually have the money.
Honestly, that really has to do with managing your cash flow, managing your inventory. One of the reasons that we're switching onto a new inventory management system is so that we can track days of inventory remaining, so that we can track all these things and make sure that if I know at this location or across all locations I sell 10 pair of size 10 pandas, right, in a week. Okay, cool. Like if it's due in 30 days, I can take 40 pandas because I will sell through those 40 pandas. But that doesn't worry me. I mean, if you look at
up at night.
No, I mean, if you look at AT&T, right? AT&T, I don't know the total amount of debt they have, but I think I'd have to look it up.
You're comparing AT&T to a sneaker reseller.
Yeah, but I don't have. Again, it's just math, right? It's percentages. So if you look at like what over leveraged is, we're not even close to over leveraged. We're within a healthy range. That doesn't bother me. Again, I'd like to not pay what I'm paying for money. I will pay for what I'm paying for money, but like, I'd like to offer someone the opportunity to make a fair rate based on what I think we're worth. But what we're paying right now is just a little bit exorbitant.
I feel like I would have a tough time sleeping at night. I don't know if I have to.
Why?
I don't know.
It's just math.
Is it?
Yeah. Every one of the big companies, if you look it up, pretty much uses leverage.
It's also luck. There's like a little bit of.
I mean, my risk tolerance is very high because to be honest, like, I will always bet on myself. Like one of the things we recently.
But it's not even betting on yourself, right? There's things that are outside of your control that you can't necessarily control.
Yeah, but there's more things that are in your control. All these external forces, the economy goes down, the economy goes up, we're in an election year, all these things that are going to happen. It's like, that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, like, we have to make more money. We're going to grow regardless. And it's like, you can either look at that and be defeated and say, okay, you're right, it's the end of the world and we're not going to make money and things are not going to happen. Or you can wake up and say, you know what, like, I'm going to do things in spite of that. Like, it doesn't matter. I will find a way to win. And I think it's just that simple.
I disagree with you on the, I think there's like a balance, right? You want to control the things you can control 100%, right? And take ownership for it. But there are certain things that I think are important to look at, like the election year, like the economy as a whole, right? I think these are things that are important to look at and adjust accordingly. You don't let that impact your decisions at all.
I definitely look at market trends.
So you agree though that there's risk, right?
Oh, there's risk in everything.
Sure. And so
you wake up this morning, you got in your car, you took the train, there's risk.
Yeah.
You do anything, there's risk.
So let's say you end up on the wrong side of that risk, right? What happens then?
what happens then?
To all the people who have given you shoes, all the people you have terms with.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, like, if that was to happen and we were an insurmountable amount of debt, like, we would probably have to file bankruptcy because there would be nothing, like, that's just what would happen. But I'm going to be honest, like, anybody in the sneaker game, especially because I plan on being here forever. Like, I really do like shoes. I like the industry. I like the culture. I like dealing with the people. I like the people who I do business with. Like, they will get paid back. Like, I will find a way. I'll flip the beaters again. Like, we will sell the shoes. We will get them paid back.
What do you think is the number one issue that resellers are facing, why they're struggling right now?
The perception that the industry is bad is the problem, right? Like, there's if you look at economics, right? They study this where if people think the economy is bad, the economy just gets worse. If people think the economy is good, it tends to do better. So I think it's the same for resellers where if you go into it with a starvation mindset, you will starve. Whereas if you go into it with abundance mindset, and, hey, there's a lot of money here. There's still a lot of opportunity. You know, you've interviewed people and they talk about as much as there might be, and I don't think it's even true. I think there's still more money in the market overall. I think it's still a growing industry. But there's a lot of people leaving because they have that starvation mentality, and there's just more opportunity for the few people who stay. I think people don't realize that it has been around for a long time, but as far as like a corporatized, like actual industry, it's extremely young.
Very young.
StockX and Go have only been around since 2016, 2017. Like, they're babies. Like,
this is something that, and I'm just speaking for myself, I feel like right now, like, all the people who are really pushing forward this industry are very young and don't come with a lot of experience from like the corporate background, which I feel like in most industries, which are a little bit more sophisticated, the people who are pushing it forward are people who come from like more, I don't want to say educated, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Does that ever like concern you that like everyone who's doing this, I feel like it's like we're kids selling shoes and now we're like kids trying to like change.
Yeah, I mean, so think about it in terms of that, right? Okay, it's a $15 billion industry. You want to do $100 million in sales a year? It's not even 1% of the entire market. Do you understand how small that is? That's not that much, okay? Cool, now make a 15% margin on $100 million in sales. You made $15 million. You'd be pretty wealthy. Like, you see what I'm saying? It's not, like, I don't know why people look at it and are like, this is a kiddie industry, this is whatever. It's like, dude, this is a big business, and like, there's a lot of opportunity in this market if someone realizes it and comes in.
I agree. But I think the reason why people look at it as such like a childish industry is because it's run by children. And this is like not a jab.
I mean, yeah, we're
this is like we're both young. Of us, right? Like, we just
combined are under 50 years old.
Yeah, like, we're very young, right? And the people who are pushing these other industries forward again are like probably like 50, 60.
I think there will be someone who comes in, hopefully it's with us. You know, I think there already has been, right? Like, there's a store out there who I talked about, you know, they got a ton of investment from a large VC. And I think it's going to start happening where people are going to start placing bets.
You graduate high school with around $1 million, right? $1 million net worth.
About, yeah. $1 million worth of shoes, which
you could have had like a comfortable, good life, right? And instead you're choosing to take on all this extra capital, all this extra risk, all this extra headache. Why do you keep going?
Because they called me fat in middle school. No, I'm just kidding. I think I want to see what I can accomplish. I think, you know, I read Goggins' book, which is a big one, where he was like, you know, his whole saying is like, you get to the pearly gates, you know, and there's a list of the things you could have accomplished, right? And you can either look at it and say, I did all those, or, you know, God is going to look at you and be like, you didn't do any of these. And it's like, which would you rather do? It's like, well, I'd rather go for all, because like, go all or nothing. Like, we're going for the whole thing, because like, what else is there to do?